Hey everybody, it's Josh with Zoo Studios, and today we've got a video that's a little overdue, and I apologize for that. It's a video that's going to discuss Starter Set 2, this guy right here. And as you can see, it's a real thing, and it's in my hands, but it's not for sale now, and we're going to talk about why. And it actually won't be for sale in 2021, unfortunately. But again, this video is kind of to discuss why. And what I wanted to do with this video is kind of make two videos in one. The first part of this video, I wanted to make kind of a Cliff Notes version of what's happened and with Starter Set 2, and just tell you why and tell you what's looking in the future, in the near future. And then for those who are interested in learning more about what happened, the details and some examples of tiles that were deemed unsellable, unplayable by me, then you can stick around for the longer talk and version of what's going on. So anyway, just jump into it and start off with the Cliff Notes version. As I mentioned, unfortunately, Zoo Tiles Hime Starter Set 2 will not be for sale in 2021. We're looking at probably around March, April. And again, if you stick around longer, I will explain why that is and what happened. I will also, for the people who are just here for like the first, 2-minute version, we've got some really exciting things happening for the game that are going to be launched next month. And so there's still a lot of excitement. Yes, it's unfortunate. It's definitely not what was planned. But again, the Cliff Notes version, Starter Set 2, I rejected it from the factory. There were quality issues that I could not live with, and I could not pass that on to fans. That's just absolutely, fans and players, that would just be absolutely not the right thing to do. So I had to kind of start over, and yeah, that's kind of what we're in the process of doing right now. But as sad as that is, there is a lot of really cool, exciting things happening for the game. I promise in the next month or so, you will be hearing some announcements that are really just going to blow your mind. And I'll talk about that more in depth later on in the second part of the video. So I think that's it for the first part. I think, that's pretty much it. It's unfortunate that it wasn't able to launch at Origins. It's unfortunate that it won't be able to be here for the holiday season, but it is what it is, and the world and time marches on. Okay, so that was the quick and dirty version. The more in-depth version is kind of where I go into more specifics about what actually happened and what things are looking like, and so yeah, I'll do that. We'll jump into that right now. So the first thing, just to give you a little bit of story, I think for people who follow the social media, the last post you probably saw from me is me going to Origins. And some of those last posts, I think, were me being super excited and sharing pictures of this actual, not this specific box, but boxes like this. And those pictures were from the factory. So the factory was sending me pictures. I was getting super excited. I was posting that on social media. And then I went to Origins. And what was interesting is that right before Origins, the factory sent me some pictures of tiles, and they were sitting on a desk, and what they sent me were, it kind of looked like this. I'm going to try and show that to you. Now, I don't know if, I think this is picking up on the camera, but you can see that there's a line of divots there, and they're on every side. And when I saw that, I was like, what is that? Like, that's not really looking right, and that certainly doesn't look the same as Starter Set 1 tiles, which are these. See, no divots there. And so the thing is that I was, when I first contacted the company, I sent them a copy of Starter Set 1, and I was like, hey, can you make tiles that look just like these tiles, these Starter Set 1 tiles? Because this is going to be a competitive game, and everybody knows that with competitive games, everybody tries to, well, not, I shouldn't say everybody tries, but there are individuals who try to take every little advantage that they can. Some people mark cards, some people look for marks, and I mean, I don't think it takes a genius to kind of see that those are two different. I mean, aside from the color of the cardboard, which I won't be able to do anything about, going forward. Different manufacturers are going to use different types of cardboard, but as far as like divots on the side go, that's something that I can make sure doesn't happen. So anyway, I saw the divots and I was like, oh, that's not good, guys. Can we put a halt to production? And because we need to figure this thing out. And little did I know that those photos were sent to me after all the tiles were cut. So I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't even know that at the time. So then I was like, well, we'll see how bad it is once I get the games in Origins. And so then I showed up at Origins and the 6 cases were there and I cracked open a box. And because what I was thinking was, hey, if there's divots, maybe, and this sounds really hokey, I mean, maybe I can ask people to, take a little sandpaper and lightly, sand off the divots. That's not ideal, obviously, but if it was a choice between, just destroying 5,000 units just because of some divots, I don't know. I'd have to make that choice. But what was interesting is when I got the games and I cracked open the first one, the divots were the least of the problems. There was a bunch of different problems, and I'll go over them. But I was actually really shocked. Might have actually been in shock. But during Origins, I didn't want to let that ruin the whole Origins, so I kind of just put that aside and kind of marched on and did demos with Starter Set 1 and tried to handle things the best I could. I didn't even talk to the factory during Origins. I was just like, trying to keep my head straight, trying to keep a smile on my face, and do what I was there to do, which was demo Zoo Tiles, and show off the game and have a good time. So tried to do it the best I could, and then I started to reach out to the factory the next week. But before I go any further, let me just show you exactly what some of the problems were. The first, and I think the most egregious problem that I felt, was the miscuts. And the miscuts are off the chain here. So let me just show you. There's all kinds of different versions of miscuts, but let's go ahead and show you. Actually, let's show you some of the good ones. So not sure if you can. Let's try and get this closer to the camera. Now this is an example. This is an example of a good one, a fairly good one. So what you'll see is it's pretty well centered. I think that the left to right centering is definitely off, but compared to what you're going to see in a few minutes, this is looking great. These are probably some examples of the best of the bunch here, so you can kind of see that. But if you look closely, you can definitely see that the left and right borders are definitely off. So there's an example of probably the best of the bunch, and there aren't many of those. The next ones you'll notice, the next ones you'll see are these ones where I think half of the copyright information was chopped off. So let's get that up there. Let's see. Well, let's zoom in on one of them. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but basically what happened is some of the miscuts were they made it so that the copyright information and the little tile code was cut in half. So I don't know if you can see that pretty well, but so we got ones that have the full copyright information but are kind of messed up side to side, and then we got ones here that are half the copyright information was cut in half, and the side and the divots. Then we got these ones here where there's no copyright information at all. Just shave that right off. There's no bottom border at all. And you can see on this snake one here, can you see how the left to right border is just so miscut? Like the left border is just so much thicker than the right one. It's kind of silly. But the main issue with this is that they just clean cut the bottom off. And in this box here, that represented half of the tiles in the game. So 40 of the tiles in the game were that the whole bottom was chopped off. So no copyright information whatsoever. And then, just when you think that's bad, there were even some few examples where not only did they chop off the bottom, but they started to go into the text box. And so you can kind of see those where they chopped it so far that it went into the text box. So that was a huge, I think that's probably the biggest one for me, is those miscuts. So we got the miscuts, we got the divots, and then we also got, oh, well, you know what, before I go on, so here's another thing here. I don't know if you guys can appreciate this or not, but you can kind of see some miscuts. So you can see the miscuts here and here versus up at top. So let's see. Like this one's really bad. Can you see at the top there how it's just so not centered and out of whack? And so you can kind of see how this one is shifted way over this way. So that is really big. That's really big, but these are really small. And you can see this one is shifted way over and miscut. So those are some examples of the backs even being miscut, which is pretty bad. But that's not all. What also I was seeing was, I don't know if you guys can see this on the camera, but it's very apparent in real life, in person, is that these are different colors. I think you can tell the difference between these two, but I can also tell you that there's a difference between this one. So this one is different than that one one's different than that one, and that one's different than that one, all within the same game. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that could happen, but it did happen. And so I was like, that's really bizarre. I mean, you want to talk about how many opportunities do you want to give a competitive player to use marked cards or marked tiles? Do you want to give them different colored backs? Do you want to give them miscut backs? Do you want to give them, divots on the side? Like, those were just all of them were, to me, deal breakers or questionable, but all three were just like mind blowing. And so the thing that just really, to this day, I'm still shocked about is that how they didn't catch that in production. I don't know. You would think if they're coming off the line, you're going to check and do a quality check for the first 10 games, 20 games or something. You want to pull it off, check the backs, check the cuts. They actually went full steam ahead, and with these issues, they produced 5,000 copies of games with these issues. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, I mean, it's horrible. Everything about this is bad. I mean, I had pre-orders, paid them giving me money for multiple cases of product from my distributors who paid early. And so I have to, I've refunded some of them. I need to refund the rest. And that's not something that you want to do, especially if you're, a very small micro publisher. And there was a ton of marketing stuff that was in the works that was great. And I'm going to give a bunch of shout outs to all the people who are primed and ready to go on that a little bit later. But you can see that, when I crack that open, it's like the day before Origins. I see all these issues, and I was just like, whoa, this is not good, but I'm just going to have to, have the best Origins I can, and then deal with that later. And so when I got back, the next Monday, or maybe it was Tuesday, I sent the company a letter, an email, and basically saying, hey, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but we have to figure something out because I cannot take these games. They were unacceptable, and I don't know what to do about it. And what was interesting is this company, I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to publicly shame anybody. That's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm here to do, because I can tell you that nobody was the winner of this. The company wasn't the winner. I certainly wasn't the winner. What ended up happening was I sent them a letter outlining the issues, letting them know that I just was completely confused as to how this could have happened and how the production run could have gone off to make 5,000 units with all the issues that I saw. I still to this day, I don't know how that could have happened. And this was an extremely reputable company. It's a U.S. company, but it's a satellite of another company who's an absolute leader in board game manufacturing, tabletop game manufacturing. I think they've been around. I know they've been around over 15 years, but I think they've probably been around 25 in the globe. So they have different factories in different parts of the world. So this was not like some mom and pop, shop, locally or anything like that. This was one of the top names, if not the top name, in board game production. So I was just a little shocked. Anyway, I wrote them a letter, and they wrote me a letter back, and I'm going to share that with you, just so for some, real transparency here. They wrote me back, and I'll just read this real fast. Again, this is not the Cliff Notes version of this video. So if you're here because you're kind of interested in this stuff. But this is what they wrote back. Hi, Josh. I wanted to contact you directly in response to your email to blank regarding the product you received last week for Zoo Tiles Starter Set 2. We pride ourselves in the quality of the board games and puzzles we produce for our customers. Regarding your project, we did not deliver a product that meets your expectations, and honestly ours in a couple of points. I agree that the turned edge on the boxes should be cleanly adhered and not away from the corners. That was another issue that I didn't even really bring up. That was bring up in the video, but I did bring up to them, was that the boxes weren't bound tightly together. It was a minor issue, and if it was the only issue, I wouldn't have rejected the production, but it was just a minor issue in addition to all the other major issues. But let's see. I agree that the turned edge of the boxes should be clearly adhered and not away from the corners. We also do see there's a variance in the color on the backside of the tiles. Yeah, we talked about it. We showed that. So huge variation in my mind. And again, completely. Well, you can't. I don't think you can see it like that, but I think you can still see at least those two are really different. And these are different, and those are different. So yeah, so they were noticing the color variation too. They didn't give a reason why that could have been, but at least they acknowledged it. The variance in the cutting of the tiles is from two areas of manufacturing. One, there is a 1/16 variance during sheet lining, where the printed sheet is mounted to the board. And two, there is another 1/16 variance during die cutting. Your graphics are very tight to the edges, and we should have flagged that from the start. Okay, so yeah, you should have flagged it from the start, and you should have seen that as soon as the first one started coming off the line. What I found, I appreciate, and I'll talk about the result of all of this in a minute. I appreciate the result, and I appreciate what they did to not rectify the situation, but to try and make it as right as it could. And basically what that amounted to is them refunding me all the money that I prepaid for the deposit for the game. And they didn't have to do that, I don't feel. They could have been jerks, and we could have, they could have said, well, come get us, let's do a lawsuit or something like that. But pretty quickly they refunded the money, so that's cool. What I find interesting here is they're trying to explain to me why the bad things happened, and I don't really need an explanation of why they happened. They happened, and in explaining it doesn't really fix the fact that you are supposed to be a professional level board game manufacturer, and you didn't act in, or the result was not a professional level result. Let's just put it that way. So anyway, they say your graphics are very tight to the edges, and we should have flagged that from the start. Yes, you should have. No one ever told me that. As a matter of fact, they gave us a template, and they gave us an outline of where our graphics need to be, within this space, the safe space, and our graphics were exactly right. We sent it back to them. They were like, yep, this is good to go. So, once we do that, you can't come back and say, oh, well, they're tight to the edges. Well, yeah, but you gave us those edges. So I don't know. I really don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really understand why they felt the need to explain this when the proof was in the pudding and the pudding was not good. Anyway, secondly, let's see. The graphics are very tight to the edges, and we should have flagged that from the start. Secondly, the nicks on the tiles are necessary to keep the tiles from falling out of the punch board. Well, that's not necessarily true, and I'll just keep reading. Obviously, I have a thing. There's something out in there in the world called Starter Set 1 that does not have those nicks. So it can be done within the realm of possibility. I don't want to, fight and argue about it because what's done is done, but that's not necessarily the case because I have Starter Set 1 and it doesn't have that. So anyway, let's see. Secondly, the nicks on the tiles are necessary to keep the tiles from falling out of the punch board. We minimize the nicks as much as possible, but we cannot eliminate the nicks. The impression divot you see on the common side of the cards is inherent to the die cutting process as a result of the amount of tonnage necessary to cut such an item. Now, what's interesting about this, and again, I'm not trying to harp on them necessarily, is that for one, I sent them copies of Starter Set 1. I said, can you do this? They said, yes, we can do this. So that is not true at some point. That was not true. And then as soon as they started getting them off the line and they saw these divots, I just still will never understand why they didn't stop production, take a few, send me a screenshot, send me a picture and say, look, these are coming off like this. And if it's not something they could have rectified, we could have saved a lot of people a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of wasted energy and labor and all that good stuff, because I would have said, well, you didn't tell me that at the beginning of this project, and that's unacceptable. So, we're going to have to part ways. But we didn't get to that until after, 5,000 copies were done. Anyway, they go on, with your email on September 27th, asking that production be halted, we should have advised you at the time that we do not have a solution to produce a tile set matching what was previously done in China. As you are well aware, manufacturing in China is much different than what is done elsewhere. It is very possible your manufacturer used a hand-cutting process to cut the individual tiles. I am 95% confident sure that is not the case, that they did not hand-cut 5,000 units of Starter Set 1. No, that's not what happened, I don't think. That is not something we can offer at blank or blank. They have two factories. We have discussed this project with our blank counterparts, and they too cannot produce these tiles without nicks. Sadly, the best solution we can offer you is a refund of your deposit. I hate to see it come to this, Josh, and I'm very disappointed we were not able to meet your expectations for the project. Please let us know how you would like to receive your refund, ACH, wire transfer, or we can overnight a check. So yeah, that's basically how they responded. I took them up on their offer to refund my deposit, but the refund of the deposit doesn't get you guys Starter Set 2, and it doesn't get me any closer to making Starter Set 2. So what I did in the meantime is I reached out to the factory that made Starter Set 1, and got a quote going from them. I actually just got that quote back, and it's a good quote, and so we're good on the quote part. The problem is, I think most people know now, is there is a shipping fiasco going on in getting things from China. So I don't really have any visibility into how long that's going to take, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. So those are some things that are still kind of out there that still need to be nailed down before I can tell anybody that Starter Set 2 will be here at any specific or even, roundabout time. One of the main reasons why I decided to print in the US, well, there's a bunch of different reasons I don't want to go into, but with this company in particular was because, hey, it's not shipping across the ocean, it's getting on a truck and getting it out to my distributors in the US, which is just so much easier. So that was a big reason for me to move from the initial printing in China to the US. But that just did not work out, as we can see. One thing to note is that the rulebook did turn out good. So here's a copy of the rulebook, and this is the revised and expanded version. So that actually turned out good. And I was going to ask them, hey, can you go through and pull all the rulebooks out and send me the rulebooks? But I thought, you know what? If I got my deposit back, I don't want to ask them to incur any more labor costs and any more shipping costs. I didn't want to incur any more shipping costs. So I just we just parted ways. And as far as for collectors out there, I'll talk a little bit about collectors in a minute. So 72 of those 5,000 units were shipped to me. Those are the only units that exist from a collector standpoint. So there's 72 made in the USA versions of Starter Set 2 that exist. The rest are going to be turned into mulch and then recycled. So I've already confirmed that with the company that is what's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but it will be happening soon. So yeah, the rulebooks were fine. And then going on, I want to take a second real quick to do some shout outs. What a lot of people probably don't know is that we had a lot of really cool marketing stuff planned for the launch of Starter Set 2, and we were on the cusp. I mean, literally within days of launching this stuff. And I want to give a shout out for people who are still here at the 26-minute mark to kozuguru.com. We were going to do some really cool stuff with the AR filter where you could put your head in and you could have your head be in a zoo tile, and that was going to be really cool. They were going to sponsor a contest, so that was all on them. They were really big supporters of the game, and hopefully we can do that when Starter Set 2 does launch, in a couple months. I also want to give a couple of shout outs, more than a couple actually. So there were some influencers who've been really helpful at helping get the word out about Zoo, and there's some new influencers that are actually super enthusiastic, and they were all going to take part in this AR marketing promotion where they were going to shoot this out to they were going to do it themselves. So they were going to put their faces in the AR filter, make themselves a zoo tile, and then their fans could do it as well. They could grab the filter, and whoever did it could enter into a contest to win a free copy of Starter Set 2. And it's not, those are the types of things that just happen overnight. You gotta make the filter, you gotta reach out to people have to say, oh yeah, that looks interesting. So some of the people who were engaged in that, I just want to give a shout out and a thanks to. So Magic Historian, thank you, Mike, awesome. Kodak, thank you for stepping up to possibly do that. Vizio Games, thank you. Minimum Player Count, thank you. Red Zone Rogue, awesome, thank you. Logan Chops, thank you. The Confusing Words, thank you. Alan the Kraken, thank you. Beer, Boards, and Beards, thank you so much. Bin Trading Cards, awesome. And My Real Name is Art, thank you. Guys, I hope we can continue. I hope we can do this at some later date. But if you guys are hearing those names for the first time, please check out their content. They're either on YouTube or on Instagram. Every one of those names that I mentioned is, are gold standard as far as I'm concerned. And, they're helping out, and they were interested in, helping market a new, microbrewery of a publisher and a game. So, again, I hope that's something that we can revive and we can use again when Starter Set 2 actually launches next year. And again, I want to also just give a shout out to kozuguru.com, Jonathan over there, everyone at Wizardry Foundry, all those great folks. They were really stepping up for Starter Set 2. And Zoo Tiles is definitely building a fan base, but it's not the biggest game out there. And, you know, we're not throwing around tons of cash to get influencers to, you know, pump our game or whatever, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, they were willing to kind of go out on a limb, make that, and really kind of run with this marketing promotion, which was awesome, and they didn't have to do that. So, you know, if you're looking for anime type stuff, definitely check out Kozuguru. I'll put the link in the description for sure. And also, you know, I might link all these influencers. There's like 11 of them, so it's kind of a lot. But you should definitely check out everyone's content because they're all super cool. And I really appreciate that they were going to participate in this thing. And hopefully we can kick it off in a couple months' time. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much wrapping up what happened and why it happened and why I had to reject the games. As far as, I think I mentioned this earlier, as far as collectors go, if there are hardcore collectors that are interested in, you know, are interested in maybe owning a copy of one of the 72 that exist, contact me through DMs and maybe we can work something out. I can tell you that they're not going to be cheap. I don't necessarily want them out in the world, but I'm a collector myself, and so I could see myself maybe wanting them. Obviously, right now I have 72, but if I wasn't if I wasn't the publisher of Zoo Tiles, but I was a fan of Zoo Tiles, that might be something that I myself would want. But again, it's not going to be cheap. They're going to be in the multiple hundreds of dollars. And so anyway, that's available if anyone out there wants it. And if they don't, that's totally fine. Technically, I'm going to say that the tiles would be tournament legal. I don't see anything in the miscuts that take off anything other than the copyright information. So the gameplay information on there is still good. But you know, I honestly, you should probably just wait until you get something that's a little bit better cut and doesn't have the divots. And what I failed to mention is that they would be legal in sleeves. So yeah, legal in sleeves for competitive, I think. Okay, so got that out of the way with the any collectors who might be out there. Let's see what else we got. Yeah. Okay, so what's the future hold for Zoo? So we have some huge news next month that should be going out. And I hate it when people say there's huge news, but then they don't even give you a hint of what that news is. So I'm going to give you the best hint that I can about what that news is. And what that news is there is going to be a new version of Zoo Tiles that is going to be coming out early next year. And part of me not knowing when Starter Set 2 is going to come out has a lot to do with when this other version comes out. This other version that comes out is going to be from a worldwide, very well-known anime property. I am not the licensor of it, so I can't say what it is, and I actually asked for permission to tell and make that announcement in this video, but I was told no, not to make that announcement because that's something that's going to be happening in a press release between the licensing publisher and this anime studio. And all I can say though is that the studio is one of, if not the biggest anime studio, at least English, in the world. And if you are an anime fan, I'm 95, 97% certain that you've at least heard of this. So what does that mean? That means that instead of it saying Zoo Tiles Hime, it'll say Zoo Tiles, the name of the anime. And I am I'm blown away with excitement for the future of the game and the future of what will be happening with that set. And I can talk a little bit more about it, but we're getting kind of late. We're almost 35 minutes, so I'm probably going to need to wrap this up pretty soon. What I can say is they are going to be versions of Starter Set 1 and Starter Set 2. So not direct versions, because the anime didn't translate perfectly into all the tiles in the set. So I had to actually make and design new tiles that kind of fit into the story and the characters of that anime. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the past couple weeks. You know, I've been dealing with this, and then after that I jumped right into you know, pulling frames and watching the anime, oh my goodness, so many times, and then, you know, screenshotting, and then, you know, doing timestamps and getting everything all bundled up so we could just send it off to the studio and say, hey, we need this frame, we need this frame, we need this frame. And believe it or not, that just took a really long time. But I finished that up a couple days ago, and I have, and I'm really excited for it. I think some of it works so well that I think that fans of Zoo Tiles are going to really, really enjoy this next version of Zoo Tiles. But they're going to be very close to Starter Set 1 and Starter 2. They have a lot of the same tiles, but some of the tiles will be new and some of the tiles will be different. So so that's news. I think specifics and the press release will be coming out next month. That's what I was told. So hold on for that. I want to make sure that this gets under 40 minutes. So what else? Is there anything else? I think that's about it. If anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to DM me. You know, I try to be as transparent as possible with almost everything that we do here at Zoo Studios. And I'm, you know, really sorry that this ended up happening the way it did. It was not my intention. I was really, really shocked. And I apologize to the degree of anything that I could have done differently to make that not happen. And I want to really apologize to our influencers who were stepping up to say, hey, yeah, I want to participate in this Starter Set 2 launch. I want to give a shout out to my distributors who were awesome. So Bridge Distribution, awesome. If you guys know a retail store, a brick and mortar store, please tell them to get a Bridge account. Bridge is awesome, and Golden Distribution is awesome as well. And Golden was like the first ones to kind of take Zoo in. So yeah, Golden Distribution, Bridge Distribution, awesome teams. So I want to thank them, and I'm apologizing to them for any pre-orders that they received that they're going to have to deal with. So that's not a great situation either. What I can promise you, though, is that we are marching ahead. I'm doing it as the fastest I can, and I'm trying to do it as smart as I can. And again, I said that there's news about a new version. So how Starter Set 2 fits into that flow of product release, I don't know yet, but I can tell you that I'm really excited about all of it. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I can say. So yeah, let's cut it off there. I am just under 40 minutes. And again, please reach out, make comments if you have comments. Hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube if you want. And then I guess the last little thing I'll say, if there's any publishers out there or small-time publishers out there who are thinking of printing their game in the US, and you want to check with me to see, and say, hey, Josh, I'm thinking about using this company. If you want to hit me up like that, I'll let you know if that's the company that that we had this issue with. I'll at least let you know. I don't want to put them on public blast because, again, no one won in this situation. They actually ate. They ordered all the cardboard. They ordered all the printed sheets, the boxes, everything like that. They gave me my whole refund back. So everything they spent to make those 5,000 units, they ate. And that is not an insignificant amount of money. And so things could have gone a completely different way. And I really appreciate them. As much as I might be sounding like I'm bashing them, I believe they did the right thing. And I don't have to do this, take them to court or anything like that. I can just close that book and march on for the game. Okay, almost at 40 minutes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the support. I will try to get things out there as quick as possible, and let's talk some more later. Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Bye.